Hello, so today I am going to talk about X-Men.
Previously on X-Men.
Again, I promise I'm not a Marvel person only. But the X-Men have always been in like the atmosphere of just interest that I've always had. I grew up with the X-Men, the cartoon, a lot of the cartoons, games. Children of the Atom was probably one of my first fighting games I've ever played. And yeah, I just love the X-Men so much. They're like a second family to me, especially in Marvel. And so today you guys are going to get two teams from me. I'm going to talk about a team that I would want to have in a X-Men storyline. And not saying like the next team wouldn't work, but the next team would be like just my dream team of characters I would love to see together. They're comprised of some of my more favorite X-Men characters, but I also want to talk about what comprises of an X-Men team. So something I've noticed just throughout the years is that X-Men teams usually have about 5 to 7 members on it at a time, not including like when they split off to like the gold or the blue team or whatever. It's just like any general team typically has about 5 to 7 people. And of course there's been teams that have had more, some have had less. It's totally just up to the story and the writer, but just generally speaking, I've noticed 5 to 7. And also there's been a bit of something I've noticed of like different type of roles that the characters typically have. And these are not like, oh, like the definitive list or definitive roles that every like character in X-Men has. Like these can be interchangeable, they could be combined together, they could just be omitted altogether. It's not like these have to be in the team. It's just things I have noticed. I'm just gonna read off my list here because it's just gonna make it easier. There's usually a leader, a field leader. Duh, that's pretty obvious. I've noticed we have had a tank. There's usually a telekinetic / a telepath. They could be one and the same, or they could be 2 different characters, or one or the other. The brain, so the really smart one. A teleporter / flyer, so someone who can usually just transport people or transport the team. Something that I call the wild card, which is typically the character who is kind of unconventional for the team, and I'll actually get to that in a bit. Not every team has this in the sense of the universe that makes sense, but it makes more sense as a reader, whereas usually there's a face, and what the face is usually the character that will get people reading the comic. That's usually kind of something I've noticed, and most of the time this character is Wolverine. I'm not gonna lie, Wolverine is very much the face. Yeah, this one's kind of interesting because it kind of goes with the wild card, and they usually have like, as I call it, the young one, which is like a character that is typically younger, more inexperienced compared to the rest of the team, but they got brought on because, and this is where the wild card part comes in, typically they're very plot convenient. Like they're very much used for the purpose of the story they're trying to tell. And then this last one, which I'm debating because when you talk about superheroes, they're all powerhouses. But I added powerhouse on here. I don't know how I feel about that. Because, again, a lot of these can be interchangeable. So, like, powerhouse could literally just be the whole team. But yes, I just wanted to give, like, just this overview of what I think comprises of an X-Men team and just how many people are going to be on the team. So, for my teams, I'm going to be greedy. I'm going to do 7 members because I just love the X-Men. And so, I just want to talk about a bunch of X-Men. So my dream team will come at the end because that one's a lot shorter, because it's just gonna be me being like, I love these characters, I want them in on this team. The main meat of this is going to be the story team that I'm assembling together. And I'm not gonna lie, when I first was trying to figure out this team and like writing in bullet points and everything, I think I made it extra difficult for myself, which is very much a parallel to real life. But yeah, I was making it very hard for me because I was like, okay, I want things to be like, if I were to write a story now, right? If Marvel were to hire me to write a story, an X-Men story that's happening currently in the continuity of the comics, what would I do? And I thought that was fun. I thought that was a really fun challenge. But I made it extra hard because there's so many characters I wanted on this team that were already part of existing teams currently going on. And so I was like, oh wait, I can't add Sage because Sage is already part of a different team. Can't add X-23 / Talent because she's on that team, you know? And so there's just like so much of that happening. There was so much of that happening when I was first figuring this out. And I was like, God damn, I'm making this really hard on myself. And I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. And so I completely scrapped like kind of like the first team I had, except for like 3 members on it, because these were like the 3 members I wanted on it 100%. Before I get to talking about the team members, let me talk about the general story of like leading up to the like why this team is needed. Am I just going to be spewing fan fiction to you? Yes. If Marvel were to hire me to write a story right now for the X-Men, it would have to take place after the Krakoa era. After the Krakoa era ended, Krakoa is now merged with the White Hot Room. Apocalypse is on Arakko. A lot of our favorite X-Men are on different teams around the world doing their shit. This story takes place in the current continuity of the comics. So Krakoa ended. People are getting infested by nightmares. People are getting these like really delirious nightmares that are really damaging their psyche. And so there are people who are not waking up and or dying in their sleep. Unprecedented. Which brings us to our leader of the team, which I'm actually super excited to talk about because she is one of my favorite X-Men. Proved herself to be such an amazing leader. And this is Dani Moonstar Mirage. Mirage is so fucking cool. Her powers is that like, and she's actually able to manifest people's nightmares. She's able to draw people's nightmares and then like create a manifestation of them. And I think she would be amazing for a story like this, in which there are nightmares plaguing people, causing people to be in like this eternal slumber, or like this, or dying from these nightmares. And so she's trying to figure out what the fuck is happening. Mirage finds a lone wanderer. This person might look familiar to some people who play Marvel Rivals. I'm gonna capitalize a little bit on Marvel Rivals here, but we're going to have Psy, aka Psylocke in Marvel Rivals, aka the Psylocke of Demon Days. Psy has somehow wound up in the main continuity of the universe, of the Marvel universe. Has no idea. Last thing she remembers is that she was hunting yokai and wound up in like a nightmare yokai dimension. That's all she can remember of like what happened for her to be in this continuity and be transported to this main continuity. So things are weird because Demon Days takes place in like feudal era Japan, if not older, if not like way older than that. Actually, yeah, no, I think I'm wrong. I don't even think it's feudal era. I think it's just like way old Japan. She's found by Mirage, who has also noticed, oh, there's these nightmares happening, right? That's when Mirage is going to assemble a team to figure out what these nightmares are, like what is causing these nightmares and what potentially the thing that can get Psy back to her time. And who is going to teleport her around? A character that we have not seen a whole lot of, which is unfortunate because I think she is super cool. And this is Dark Veil. Dark Veil used to go by Shade, but Dark Veil is Darnell Wade. She is a drag queen, so Darnell Wade is male at birth, but does drag, which is how their codename Shade first started, but then they changed to Dark Veil. Dark Veil's superpowers is being able to teleport via the dark dimension. If you have come from Marvel Rivals stuff, Cloak is able to teleport people via the dark dimension. So Dark Veil is able to do the same thing. Probably not to the extent of Cloak, but we don't know because in the comics, Dark Veil is not really seen. We don't see a whole lot of her, which is so unfortunate because I think she has so much cool potential. So she will be our teleporter. And so she teleports to Alaska? Hold up. Okay, I was right. Alaska. Why? Because she needs to hit up her old friend, Magik. Magik is awesome. I think people who know Magik a lot more now. Magik's actually incredibly popular. She's been really popular for many years now, but I think her popularity only skyrocketed more in recent years due to Marvel Rivals. And I would even say Marvel Midnight Suns really like helped propel her a little bit too. Why does Mirage need to hit up her old friend Magik? And I say old friend because these two were New Mutants together when they were first introduced. They were on a team together. So why is she hitting up her old friend Magik? Well, because Mirage has been able to get some sort of link that these nightmares are somehow linked or has affected Magik's brother, Colossus. And this is where the main meat of the video is. This is where my fanfic goes all fucking crazy and is a love letter to my boy, Colossus. If you didn't know by now, I love Colossus. Colossus is my favorite superhero. He's my favorite X-Men. And if you also didn't know, Magik is Colossus's little sister. And let's just say their relationship has been interesting. I'll get to that. But yeah, so Mirage would go to Magik, be like, do you know where your brother is? I feel like there's some sort of link between him and these nightmares that are happening all over the world. And Magik's like, I have no fucking idea where he is. If I was talented enough and like awesome enough to be hired for anything other than just being an ideas guy, this is where we would jump into a nightmare panel and you would see Kayla, this water mutant on Krakoa. This is the paddle. It's just Kayla right there and these metallic hands wrapped around her neck. Over and over again and then thrown into a ditch. And that's when Colossus wakes up from his nightmare. Colossus, after the Krakoa era, needs a lot of therapy. That's, I mean, every superhero, truthfully, every superhero fucking needs therapy. But Colossus especially, I don't think they have really touched upon just the amount of trauma this guy has had. Especially during the tail end of the Krakoa era. There was just so much happening there that they did not touch upon. And I'm like, you guys are ignoring such an interesting like way to do some character progression or some character arc for Colossus. Because, oh man, let me tell you guys what happened to Colossus during the House of X, the Fall of X stuff, right? So initially when Krakoa was created, Colossus was just gonna just be at a farm away from people. Like, he was on a farm in Krakoa farming like the Krakoan drugs, and he's just doing that. He's just hanging out there. He's just being a farmer. He doesn't want to be involved in anything. Like, he was really tired of being in that life of needing to fight all the time. It's like he's just like, I'm just gonna be a farmer. I'll be here on the mutant land with my brethren, but I'm gonna be out on this farm. He had another mutant helping him named Kayla. We know very little to nothing about Kayla other than that she is a mutant with water-based powers. So hydrokinesis. And she helps Colossus with the farm. And she also is like the person, this is like the person who gives Colossus everything he needs. What happens is that Colossus gets his mind fucked up. He gets his like will pretty much like controlled by his brother Mikhail and a mutant called the Chronicler. And we don't know much about the Chronicler, but we'll get to him. His brother Mikhail is kind of an evil asshole, I must say. Like, he is not the greatest guy. So Mikhail is pretty much like coercing the Chronicler to control Colossus. And what the Chronicler does, his power is that he's able to warp reality by writing. So he's like writing stories. During this time, you even see the Chronicler being like, have you not done enough? Like, do you really need to go this far? Like, he's talking to Mikhail, right? And Mikhail's like, nope, keep going. And the Chronicler is a little bit of a bitch and is like, okay. To pretty much get Colossus to kind of be taken control of by his brother, they pretty much force and write Colossus to kill Kayla. And so he kills Kayla, buries her in a ditch on Krakoa, which is so fucked up. But the thing is, we don't get to explore that. We don't get to explore that much because after that, because Colossus is getting controlled by his brother's like, okay, he is going to be my infiltrator into the X-Men stuff. And so into the Council of Krakoa. So Colossus was voted to be on the Quiet Council of Krakoa, which is pretty much like the council that makes all the decisions. And everyone else did not know that Colossus was not being himself. He was being controlled by his brother. And he was also made to be the head of security of X-Force, and because of that, he accidentally, like Colossus accidentally, he was forced really, to pretty much put his team in danger, because this is how fucking all of the story of how, like, this is like preluding the Fall of X stuff, like the end of Krakoa era. Because Colossus was made to be the greatest traitor. He was made to be the X-Men's biggest traitor. Because of the actions that his brother put upon him, he endangered Wolverine, endangered, I think, Domino, and endangered so many characters that he loves, right? Mikhail ends up dying, and Colossus helping with the Fall of X stuff. So I just needed to give that background just so you know where I'm coming from for the rest of the story. Because we'll go to Colossus, who's tilling the fields of a farm somewhere in Russia by himself. He's isolating. It feels like he's a danger to everyone around him because he has been mind controlled and has caused so much damage, feeling like he might not fit with society anymore. And so I feel that it'd be cool to have the story revolve around my boy Colossus, because I also feel like he hasn't really had any major storylines that are focused on him that's like part of an X-Men story. We don't get to see Colossus any more than just more of a supporting role for other characters or for the main character of an X-Men story, like Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde is a main character quite a bit, but then Colossus is more of a supporting role. Even like when it came to Muir Island stuff, right? Even when he cured the legacy virus, he wasn't like the main character of that, but he did make a big decision. And so we don't get to see Colossus really have a big storyline. I feel like this would be a great way for us to get Colossus to have a really cool big storyline in the modern era, because I also feel like writers don't care for Colossus anymore at Marvel, which really bothers me as someone who loves Colossus. And so we're just gonna roll with this. This is where I'm going with this. We're with Colossus in the farms, and he again feels like he's just such a danger to everyone around him. He has been mind controlled, not even just because from like the Krakoa stuff and like the one that helped Orcus invade Krakoa and all this stuff. He's also been mind controlled so many times in the past, or felt like he had no control. And so he just feels like, I'm just a danger to everyone around me. I cannot be around people, because if I am, I'm just gonna cause them harm. This is clearly me not projecting. So a lot of what Colossus is feeling is a lot of guilt, a lot of grief as well, because not only did he kill Kayla and endanger his team, but he almost, like inadvertently, because he was being controlled by his brother, almost ended the world. And he's like, I can't do this. But getting teleported in is our team so far of Mirage, Psy, Magik, and Dark Veil. Magik's probably the one that can at least get to Colossus and talk to him, because they are siblings. Their relationship isn't like as strained as it was a few years ago, but it's still not the greatest, because they're not like, this isn't like when they were younger. This wasn't like Big Brother Colossus looking after his little sister, his snowflake, right? This is adult Colossus, adult Magik. Two adults who have gone through so much turmoil, and one causing a lot of harm to the other, to like be like, hey, we could be on speaking terms, but that's about it. Like, they don't really interact as much anymore. And I feel like this story could be such a good way to explore that sibling relationship. And I'll get to that. Because I'm not going to outline the whole story here. I'm just going to outline like the big parts. But the beginnings, I got to set it up. Colossus is very important to this mission, because again, Mirage has been having some sort of like inkling. She's able to kind of feel that Colossus is somehow linked to this stuff. Furthermore, Psy will interject and say she saw a metallic yokai. A yokai made of blades, or like with the shine of a blade or something like that. She talks with a very pretty language, right? And so I think that could also be a really helpful factor of like needing Colossus in this sort of story. And as reluctant as he is, Colossus does end up helping the team. So we have 5 people on the team. I'm selfish and I'm greedy, and so I want 2 more characters on this team because I just love the X-Men. And so the next person they recruit is someone that Mirage is recommending, and that's Dust. Dust is really fucking cool, underutilized mutant. She is able to transform her whole body into sand, like Sandman essentially. And she is also immune to like psychic control and psychic abilities, like telepathic stuff, while she's in her sand form, which will play in later. But I must admit, this last slot, I had a really hard time figuring this out, because I was like, I could bring someone who's like more of a legacy title in or a legacy name in, or do I want to go like a little bit more obscure? Because if you guys don't know me by now, I like going with the obscure choices. But then like this team, aside from Colossus and Magik really, and Psy technically, I would say, are like the more notorious names. They're like the more like obvious names, or like at least looks, because like aside from Marvel Rivals, right? Like if people look at Psy as Psylocke, they're just gonna be like, oh, that's Psylocke. They're not gonna know Psy from Demon Days unless they've read that comic. But yeah, this last slot was really, really hard for me to figure out because I just didn't know who would fit in this sort of story. And I'm not gonna lie, I debated so much. I was like, do I put Domino in because of her relationship with Colossus that they had? Which, I mean, honestly, Domino and Colossus, probably the best relationship Colossus has ever had. Because as much as I would love to have Jean Grey or Storm, they are off on their own adventures right now. Jean Grey is having cosmic adventures, Storm is dealing with Doctor Doom and death things right now. And so, unfortunately, I can't put them really on the team if I'm trying to continue this continuity. After a lot of deliberation, I decided to go with a weird pick, a really weird pick. A pick that people are like, what? Why? Really? And this is going to be Maggott. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Japheth? Maggott. Maggott is a weird ass mutant. He was part of the Morlocks and then was on Krakoa, but then I think he went back to the sewers to hang out with the Morlocks again. So his superpower is that he has a external sentient stomach or digestive system in the form of 2 slugs or slug-like creatures. Yeah. His slugs' names are Eenie and Meanie. And why am I putting Maggott on the team? Well, one, he has telepathic resistance, which I think could be helpful. But I just think it would be fun to have the really weird pick. This is my wild card. This is my wild card. I think it'd be fun for the weird pick to just exist until they need them. So like with his slugs, when they eat something, they actually do power Maggott up a bit, right? Where it's like, ooh, I'm enhanced. He's also blue, which I think is fun. And so, yeah, is this a weird team? Yes, but this is also gonna be a weird storyline because we're gonna dive into sleeps and dreams. And you would think, shouldn't you have more telepaths if that's the case? All of our big telepath motherfuckers of the X-Men are so fucking busy. Emma Frost is doing shit, divorcing Tony. Jean Grey's out having cosmic adventures. Kid Omega's helping Cyclops. Also, I don't know how we're getting Maggott on the team. That makes sense. So let's just pretend like Maggott has been on the team this whole time. Let's just pretend he was been on it the whole time. Don't mind me. Anyway, team needs to find someone who can help them or help Colossus trace back or like figure out why these nightmares are happening and how he's linked to them. Because as much as Danny can try to do that, she doesn't have enough power to do that. Psy can't really do that because her main thing is just being able to make telekinetic weapons. They're gonna try to find someone who can at least help them. Kid Omega was up for suggestion, but then Magik's like, probably not. Jean Grey's busy. Emma Frost is busy, but Emma Frost would be a good pick. I actually did have Emma Frost on this team for a while, but I was like, if she's not the leader, I think things might be weird. Because I actually really wanted Mirage to be the leader, because this just makes sense for her. So this is when Magik gets the idea. She's like, not the best idea, but it will do. And it's going to Limbo to see Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen. Now, Madeline Pryor is not super evil anymore. Like, she hangs out in Limbo, she rules Limbo. She's actually a pretty chill person now. And so they're gonna go to Madeline Pryor to have her use her powers with telepathy to trace whatever this is. And this is when we find out that the Chronicler is involved again. He's just writing nightmares for people, but he's being coerced to do it by our big bad, big reveal, the Shadow King. Because I totally forgot to say this. I meant to say that the Shadow King is possessing the Chronicler and using the Chronicler's powers in tandem with his own to, induce these nightmares. So
sorry, I forgot something.
We have not seen the Shadow King as a villain for a long time. So the thing is, so the Shadow King is this multiversal existence being thing, right? It's just like this being out of that exists in every multiverse because it's omnipresent. Quote unquote avatar of the Shadow King is named Amal Farouk. Did I say that right? I don't know. Names are hard to pronounce sometimes, guys. The sentient, existential, godly, like multiversal being is the big bad here. And so this is where things get linked, right? This is where it's like, okay, Colossus was being controlled by the Chronicler to do all the things that cause so much strife. And Malin Pryor is getting a lot of this guilt coming from Colossus. Colossus is just feeling a lot of this immense guilt, and it's tracing back super far from like being mind controlled on Muir Islands and endangering his X-Men brethren at the time to when he was the avatar of Cyttorak, essentially, when he was the Juggernaut. But Madeline Pryor is kind of keeping that under wraps. She's just like, we're trying to deal with certain things right now. Well, I won't mention that right now. And so after knowing that, they're like, okay, how do we get into the astral plane? How can we get into the astral plane? And I think this is where Dark Veil can like come in and be like, I can try. Dark Veil can. I think this could be a cool opportunity for them to stand on her powers of like, oh, maybe it's not just the dark dimension. Maybe she's able to get into different planes. I don't know. This is fanfic right now. I don't know. And so I think that would just be cool to be like, ooh, what if we're able to do that? They have to go to the astral plane to defeat Shadow King. During like when they're in like this like nightmarish astral plane, this is when like all of Colossus's shit comes out, right? Where it's just like the guilt, the immense guilt he's felt, especially with how he treated Magik. Because something, and this is the whole sibling thing, right? Throughout a lot of like when Colossus was first introduced, is that he really treats Magik like a little sister, but more as like this like precious little thing that like cannot do harm, cannot be harmed. But when Magik ends up being, you know, Dark Child and like Queen of Limbo and all this stuff, Magik is no longer that like precious little girl that Colossus knows, but like Colossus kept treating her like that, like really like fragilizing Magik. And that's when Magik did something really fucked up of having Colossus, because like the Cyttorak, the gem of Cyttorak is the thing that grants people Juggernaut powers. Cyttorak wanted Magik to be like his next champion, but instead of Magik, Colossus stepped up, was like, no, I'll do it. And so that's when Colossus became Juggernaut. And then the thing is, after that whole stint, and because like Cyttorak loved Colossus, I think Cyttorak legitimately calls Colossus his favorite champion. And like with no other champion so far, Colossus like had like a demonic Cyttorak form too. And so I think that's why. And it's like, and Colossus is such a good guy that like Cyttorak really loved like being like kind of corrupting this really good guy. But the thing is, so Colossus was able to get rid of the whole Cyttorak stuff because Magik was like, oh, we're going to Limbo, and she took it away immediately because she's extra powerful in Limbo, right? She's hella powerful in Limbo. And Colossus like, you could have done this whole time. And Magik's like, yeah. Now you know how now you know how I've been. Now you know how crazy I've been. Because I think like I don't remember the line like verbatim, but like Colossus is like, you're insane, and she's like, exactly, I am. And so, and that's when their relationship as siblings really like took a hard hit, because again, Magik did something so damaging and so fucking painful for Colossus, who again, like up to this point has just always been such a good guy. He's been like such a good boy. Yeah, so he's always trying to do good. And I think Magik showing that like she is not like this pure snowflake being, not only did that shatter Colossus's perception of his sister, because like that's his little sister, he is going to continue seeing her as a little sister, but it's also like my sister was willing to do a lot of harm to me. I just wanted to add real quick that Magik didn't do this whole thing out of malice or to torture Colossus. It was more of the vibe of she wants someone to experience what she's experience or feel what she has been feeling, because she's just been feeling so isolated and so lonely because of it. And it meaning that she has been having to endure this hell dimension and being part of like this whole deep and stuff. So I think that would be such a big contentious and such a good point in the story for Magik and Colossus to actually finally talk about their sibling relationship. I think it's just been such a long time overdue for that. Because even after that, like Magik like apologized and Colossus is like, okay. And like some people say, oh, that just shows how good Colossus is. It's like, yeah, but I feel like that's just so unfulfilling. It's just like so unsatisfying. Because imagine someone did that to you, right? Imagine like your best friend, your partner, like your sibling, whoever, right? Someone that you really care about, that you really cherish, willingly was like, oh cool, like I'm gonna let this person like be controlled and like struggle with a demon trying to use you, when I could just take that away immediately. Like, that sucks. And so I feel like, yes, Colossus is a good guy, willing to forgive. Like maybe he can forgive Magik, but he has not gotten over all the shit that has happened. And I think even like compounding upon that, like during his time as Juggernaut, he was also part of the Phoenix. The Phoenix Force fucking possessed him, right? Like he was part of the Phoenix 5 with Magik. So a lot of the story beats is just like not just tackling like the grief, the guilt, but also just like what is will, right? What is free will? Because Colossus has been a character I feel like has not had control. And I think like this all could happen in like the actual nightmare dimension where like these are all playing out. All these worries are being played out. And Magik can finally see her big brother as someone who's more than just her big brother. Because like think like when they're younger, she's like, oh, my big brother is going to protect me all the time and all this stuff, blah blah blah, until he couldn't, because I'm fucking insane, you know. And so, and I can protect myself. But I think it's like she can finally see like the toll that Colossus has had to take also, because I feel like Magik never has realized how much Colossus had suffered or has gone through also. And so I think that's just like this mutual thing of like these are two siblings that are finally being able to see the troubles, the struggles, the suffering that each other have had. Like it's just like something I feel like could be so beneficial to a good story. I feel like this story could be so good to actually like tackle like what happened with Colossus at the end of the Krakow era, plus Magik, like plus him and Magik's sibling relationship. It just has not been explored, and that's so unfortunate because they are these siblings that really cared about each other at one point. And not that they don't care about each other anymore, but it's just like they could continue to care about each other, you know, but they won't do anything about that. And like everyone's gonna go through their own nightmares, right? Everyone's gonna have to tackle their own nightmares. But this is what I think will be fun, and this is why I wanted Maggott on the team. I want Maggott slugs because he has telepathic resistance. I wanted Maggott on the team so his Maggotts could be eating these constructs of like nightmares to power himself up to be more resistant to that, and that's how he is able to break a lot of like his teammates free from like just being trapped in like this spiraling nightmare. I think that'd be so fun. Furthermore, I also wanted Dust on the team because I wanted like a little bit of like a Sandman kind of vibe with Dust, where maybe like before they continue to fight Shadow King in the astral plane, Dust becomes again dust or sand that is protecting her teammates from all the telepathic things that Shadow King's able to do, because again she has resistance to that. So what if she's like this literal layer of sand or dust that is protecting her teammates because she knows she can do that? So while they fight the Shadow King, Dust is going to be their protection. It's going to be their telepathic barrier. And that's what I have for my story. I know I didn't tackle a whole lot of any other characters other than Colossus and Magik, but like this is a very Colossus-centric story. But I think like the other members of the team are really valuable to it though, because we have Mirage, who's the leader, who is able to come up or like create these manifestations of like people's nightmares. So maybe that's like how they first start seeing like, oh, what Colossus has been tackling with, right? And then we have Dark Veil, who is a teleporter who can maybe get them into the astral plane, because I just need them to do more with Dark Veil. Dust is gonna be their Sandman, protecting them telepathically, and Maggotts are weird wild card who's just gonna be like, I'm gonna have my slugs eat things and power me up and help me help you guys. Magic's just super pivotal to a Colossus based story, I feel like. And some people might be like, oh, why not put Kitty Pryde in, because like they were, you know, romantic partners, or Domino for the same reason. I'm so over Kitty Pryde and Colossus. I'm like, I'm good. I don't need Shadowcat and Colossus stuff. I do not need that. But then I'm also thinking Sai would be cool, just to bring in Demon Days Sai as a fun like little like, oh hey, I know you guys are playing Marvel Rivals, and this is who it is. But it's also like a way for her to like be in the story, be really cool, and have more after Demon Days. Because after Demon Days, she doesn't really do anything. Like I don't think she has had a story after Demon Days other than Marvel Rivals. That's pretty much my team and my story for an X-Men team. And again, it's very Colossus centric, I know, because he is my favorite. You don't get to see a whole shit ton of shit with Colossus anymore. We really don't. What would this team be called? I don't know. X-Men Dream Team. Although that's not wrong, they do go into like nightmares and dreams, so that's not totally wrong. Now I'm going to talk about my dream team, which is like this is a team of all the X-Men that I just want together on a team. Whatever storyline, I just want them to be together because I love them all. These are all some of my most favorite X-Men. And you guys best know Colossus is obviously on the team. He's obviously on the team. He is our tank. He is our bruiser. He is everything to me. I love him. Next up, I'm going to put on the team is Storm. Storm, so powerful. It feels like cheating to put Storm on the list, but I'll talk about someone else later that also feels like really cheating. But like, Storm's so powerful. The weather control and her storyline right now that's currently going on in her solo comic. She's only getting more powerful. She's only getting more powerful, and I am so excited to see what happens to her next. Because I'm like, ooh, are we going to get like the like true goddess Storm? Because like we call her a goddess because she is one, right? But like no, but is she going to be like a goddess? I want Psylocke, very likely Quanon versus Betsy Braddock, because Betsy Braddock is Captain Britain. So very likely Quanon. I love Psylocke in any iteration, truly. I think Psylocke is so fucking cool. It's just telekinetic weapons is sick as hell. This next character feels like cheating, for sure, and so I have a backup just in case. But Jean Grey. Jean Grey is immensely powerful, especially now that her and the Phoenix Force are, you know, fused together again and are one being, and there's no like contention again. Like it keeps getting hit upon. Like the whole Dark Phoenix stuff is very important to Jean Grey's storyline, do not get me wrong. But my god, it's been many years, we can move on. Like I can understand that being part of the story beat, but like it doesn't have to be everything about the Phoenix, you know? But yeah, so right now, Jean Grey is up having cosmic adventures, like fighting space deities and gods and like these beings, and just doing her fucking best. She's actually killing it, I must say. But because she's so uber powerful, like she's beyond Omega, because there's no way to even classify her at this point. It feels like cheating to put her on this list, on this team. So my backup is Emma Frost, which would piss Emma Frost off if she knew that. But no, like Emma Frost is also very powerful in her own right. Like she's strong telepath, telekinetic, diamond form shit. Like she's so fucking cool. I think she would be a sick character to have on the team. If Jean Grey can't do it, or if Jean Grey's way too powerful for that. Dazzler, I think Dazzler is such an underrated, underutilized X-Men. Like I feel like if you're in the X-Men trade wins, you know who Dazzler is, but she hasn't had a whole lot, and I want to see more of her. I think Dazzler's just so fun. It can like bring a lot of joy and like comedy to like this team, especially. I think it would be cool. Talon, formerly known as Wolverine, formerly known as X-23, Lara Kinney. I love Talon so much. I'm very used to calling her X-23, so calling her Talon's really weird, but she's cool, and like she could do a fastball special with Colossus. I just want that so bad. And I think she is just like this super like fascinating character who has had like such an arc in her character development. of like starting off like the sad emo girl to this super powerful woman who's just like, I'm gonna fuck your shit up. And then this last slot, I actually had a hard time figuring out. At first I was like, ooh, what about Sunfire? But I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want Sunfire. And then I was like, ooh, what about Polaris? Because I love Polaris. But then I ultimately landed on Blink. Blink in the main continuity has not done a whole lot, unfortunately, I feel like she is a character that people are aware of, but not necessarily one that people are putting in stories too much. Like she's kind of like that subsidiary, like, oh yeah, she's there, she exists. I'm like, oh come on, Blink's so cool, especially in Age of Apocalypse. She was so popular that they made her a main character in Age of Apocalypse. So let's let Blink shine. I feel like she is long overdue for a really cool storyline. So yeah, that's my dream team of like characters I'd love to see. Is it all women plus Colossus? Absolutely, because the women of X-Men are amazing. They're hot. They're just everything. They're everything to me. I did want to put Rogue on the team, but I feel like her and Gambit come as a pair now, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't want Gambit on any of my teams. Anyway, so that is my 2 teams of X-Men, one very long story related one and one just like of my favorites. Please let me know if you guys were able to assemble a team together of 5 to 7 members of the X-Men. Let me know who you guys would have on it, because there's so many different configurations that you could come up with, and I think that would be super fun to just like read your guys' like teams and then the reasoning behind it and maybe a potential storyline, right? I think that'd be really cool to explore, because I love theorizing. I love theorizing about the stuff. It's just kind of like my weird thing. Is like I love talking about hypotheticals and like teams I would assemble. I do this with Pokemon all the time too. And so, yeah. Anyway, that's my that's it. Cool. Thanks. Bye.